Hello and welcome, my friends. This is Jennifer from Mystic Star. Like I said in the video yesterday, I know you guys aren't used to seeing me in my face, my hands, sure, maybe my arms, but this is what I look like. I want to thank you guys for joining me for day 2 of my Tarot 101. Now, don't worry, most of my classes will not be this face-to-face. It's kind of awkward and weird for me because I'm talking to myself. When I have my cards, it's like I'm talking to a friend. This I'll get used to. But we will get hands-on and we'll get close up to the cards soon. Today, I wanted to do some myth busting. It's one of my favorite things to do because there are some crazy myths about reading cards, whether it be tarot or oracle. I'm going to focus in on most of the tarot ones because the tarot and the oracle ones, they're very, very similar. So we're going to go through about a dozen kind of normal myths that don't stand up and you need to know the truth for so that you can be a better reader. All right, so I really want to dive into this because some of them are crazy. The first one, of course, is that tarot is evil, that it is dangerous. I know that myth, it goes back to some of the religious beliefs about tarot and about the spirituality. However, tarot isn't any more dangerous than a pen. Tarot is about knowledge, and whether you use that for yourself and for your advantage or to cause harm to someone, well, that's a personal choice. Tarot in itself, well, it's a card. It's not going to harm you. The worst you're going to get is a paper cut. And even then, I can't say I've gotten a lot of them. So tarot in itself is not a dangerous tool. Even if you threw it at somebody, like I said, they might get a paper cut, if that. This is a tool to support people, helping them to understand the patterns in their lives. This isn't dangerous. This has, well, I know there's a devil card, but it's nothing to do with the devil. Actually, when we get into it, you're going to find that many religions are connected into this. Many different faiths, cultures, and beliefs. And it does include Christianity and Catholicism. So for it to be dangerous and deemed ungodly is a bit of a stretch, especially for me. As if you've seen my channel or any of my videos, you know I work with the archangels. You can't work with the archangels, especially the ones I'm working with, and the devil. Archangel Michael would call you on that. So, dangerous, not so much. I love this one. Of course, that everything that tarot predicts or states is written in stone. Well, it's not true either. Again, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I tell you that this is what is being offered. This is the pattern that we're seeing. We can make changes. I've put out mapping videos so that you guys knew what was happening. So you guys can make choices for your greater good. You change behaviors, you break patterns, you shift. What you read changes. So no, nothing is written in stone. We have the right of free will, and I encourage people to use it. It's something that humanity has been gifted. We're one of the very few species that does have this free will. So I encourage you to use it, my friends. I love this one too. Predetermined meanings. Well, if there was one meaning to the card, if this had one meaning, it wouldn't take so long to learn to read tarot. So And additionally, to branch off of this, many of us don't just do one card readings. We start to add in multiple cards. And then all of a sudden, you have predetermined meanings that don't make sense because they're all interacting. So, of course, that myth that there's one predetermined meaning, that's untrue. The closest we get to that would be the Sun card or the Three of Swords. Most of them, if you ever were to Google it or research what the meanings are, you get pages and pages of meanings. Like I said, when you start to add multiple cards together, you're going to get a very different meaning. Of course, if you've got meaning, it means you got to memorize it. Rule 1, guys, don't memorize. That's why I say to you, the little booklet that comes with these cards, throw it away. You're not going to need it. Or if it's something to do with your oracle cards or has some history or something that is very deck specific, sure, keep it, but tuck it away. You don't need it. If you go back into history, the original deck, the original deck that was printed in 1910, the little book it came with had one just similar to the one that when I got my deck in the 90s. There was a lot of contradicting information. Arthur Waite, who wrote that little pamphlet booklet, actually contradicted what Pam drew. And so even the original deck didn't have a clear meaning. A divinational tool should not have one meaning. A divinational tool is there to provide information. And life is not as black and white as one defined meaning. So to try and memorize pages and pages and pages, well, that's going to take a lot. And I never tried to memorize them because it was never anything I wanted to do. We're going to learn tools together so that you don't have to memorize what the hangman means this way, that way, with when you get it with the Six of Cups. You're going to be able to read the symbolism that occurs in the cards. We're going to talk about the lore behind the cards, giving you an understanding of what the Six of Cups actually is, what the Hanged Man is actually hanging from. So when we work with symbolism, that's where we can branch out. Big reach. Almost, it's out of my reach. To our oracle cards. That's why I say that it's easier to start with this and then move into this. We don't have to memorize. We don't have to try and remember all the little nuances that come with each card. We're going to learn tools and tricks so that you can fall back and, well, read the cards. Which of course leads to, well, the belief that everybody needs to be psychic to read tarot or oracle cards. Psychic is a really weird label. I'd rather use the word intuition. We all have that skill. That intuition is our higher self. That intuition tells us that, you know what, if you go down this path, you make this choice, you're going to succeed. It's that little voice that's sometimes really hard to hear, but when we listen to it, that's when we have those amazing aha moments. We get ourselves unstuck, and we find that fulfillment that we really need. This is about intuition, not about being psychic. Like I just said, I'm going to give you some tools and some techniques on how you can read these cards. You can then move on to the oracle deck. These cards, once you get used to them, once you understand the symbology, the archetypes, it doesn't matter what deck it is. You'll have that knowledge. You'll know how to use those brushes, no matter what the brushes look like. So no, you don't need to be psychic. And I don't know if I feel myself psychic. I think that I use my intuition and my higher self to connect in with the high vibrational beings, and they just let me know what's going on. And then I can use that to my advantage and to the advantage of my clients. So I struggle with the fact that people think you have to be psychic to use these. It's an old, obviously, myth that only certain people could use tarot and understand it. Just like how there was a belief that only certain people could talk to the angels, connect in and gain their guidance. Again, not true. We all have that ability. It's just some of us feel a little bit stronger and more able to do so. Okay, so this is probably the number one myth, that someone else has to buy you your first deck. I bought this deck for myself. It's really hard. You have to be pretty darn specific with somebody to say, hey, I want a tarot deck. Can you get that for me? I'm sure once upon a time, people would apprentice and then their teacher would gift them a deck. Well, most of us don't do that. We self-teach, we start to connect in. So to be gifted a deck, it can be very challenging to say to a friend or family member, hey, can you go buy me this deck and gift it to me? Thanks. So no, you don't have to wait for somebody to buy that for you. You can do so. And if you're anything like me, once you get your first deck, you get a lot more afterwards. And so, yeah, you might as well start off with a deck that is going to be, well, meaningful for you, but one that's going to be that stepping stool. So for those who are starting out and don't have that deck, go with a Rider-Waite deck. I know it's not as pretty as everything else. This one has held up okay since 1910. It's over 100 years old, guys. If this isn't a deck that you really, really like, or if it's not the deck that's for you, you could try the Radiant Rider-Waite. It's the same pictures. It's just been cleaned up and digitized. So you actually have orange opposed to a weird hashy yellow with red. You got to remember, this is printed with today's press. These ones were created with a very archaic press. So there really isn't a lot of orange. If you can see it in the 6 of, I don't know if it's going to zoom in here, but the orange isn't orange. It's red with yellow. It's got a yellow background with red hashtags, like hashing marks. So if that's going to bother you, you can go with the Radiant Rider-Waite. There's a lot of derivatives and variations of the original deck. What you want is the original picture, the original symbols. Because if you can read this, you can read any deck that's based off of this. And as you get stronger with your symbology, you can read any oracle deck that comes forward. So get the deck that is meaningful for you so you can start off on the right foot. You can get those basic foundations and skills you're going to need to read anything. Hey guys, so I got everything filmed and then I realized I hadn't talked to you about where you could buy these. Tarot cards are everywhere. And it's not really a myth, but I don't want it to be created as a myth. It does not matter where you buy the tarot from or the oracle cards. You can get them, of course, through metaphysical shops, bookstores, Amazon. Amazon's a great place. Online is fantastic, especially right now, to get the cards you want at a fairly good price. There are a lot of cards and a lot of places that you can get them from. Don't be afraid to research it. Look online and see where you can get them and get them delivered to you. I'm going to show you tools on how to clear and charge that card, that deck, for you. So it doesn't matter where you buy that deck from. So I wanted to add that in so that people were aware you can get them from wherever you, well, find the greatest deal. Other people touching your deck. Well, that is a personal choice. I let people touch my deck without any hesitation. Most people are very mindful of when they touch someone else's belongings, that they're careful with it. I've never had a client or student break my deck when they're shuffling it. They're very cautious of it. Some readers, they don't let people touch them. And that's a personal choice. I just make sure when someone else touches my deck that I clear it. It's part of taking care of your deck, that deck maintenance, if you will. And I'll get more into that as we go on. But right now, just know that it is a myth. Other people can touch your deck if that's how you feel, that it's a personal choice. So if you want people or feel okay with people touching your deck, knowing that you have that ability to clear it so that their energies don't stick to your deck, that's a you choice. And for many of you, it's not going to be something that you need to do right away. We're not going to start reading for other people, because when you start to read for other people, there is that pressure. So let's take it slow. But just know you can have other people touch your deck if you want. Which obviously I just said we're not going to start reading with people. So yes, you can read for yourself. It can be really challenging, but yes, you can. You can start reading for yourself right now. You could pick up a card and go, wham, this is an important card for me. That is starting to read for yourself. So yes, there is a lot of myth around the fact that you can't read for yourself. I've also heard a myth that you can read for yourself, but not while you're pregnant. Well, I did it with both my kids. They're fine. I'm fine. It's not something, again, that's going to hurt you or others. These are cards. This is information that the high vibrational beings want to share with you in a pictorial setting. So no, it doesn't matter. Yes, read for yourself. Get that foundation. Get that understanding of the cards, how they feel, and what they mean to you. Yes, and I won't lie, I still even do it. If I really don't want to see it, the cards, they'll sometimes be trying to tell me something. And when you ignore it, because you don't want to see it, it contradicts something that you're not willing to shift just yet, well, don't worry. The cards will keep gently reminding you. So yes, you can miss it. Absolutely. Can it be a bearer? Absolutely. However, your deck, especially as you get to know it and it knows you, you're going to find that you're going to get the same card over and over and over again until you get that message. Your deck isn't going to shout at you. It maybe get sassy at you, but it's going to just keep telling you with the same cards or a variation of the same cards, the message it needs to share. So absolutely, start reading for you right now. Death card. I don't know how many clients I've had that go very, very pale when the death card comes in. Of course, the death card does not mean something is going to physically die. It means transition, a release. Part of you that isn't working, that you need to release, I guess will have a natural death. But it's not in the fact that you're going to have to bury something or somebody. Okay, so the death card does not mean a physical death. It does mean that change, and usually that transition that needs to happen. reverse cards. I could probably, and I probably will do this, I will do a whole session on the reverse card. A reverse card means that when you draw it out or it falls up upside down. So if you had the card, making sure I can get, okay, so if you draw, this is a reversal. A reversal means that it is upside down. Sometimes that's hard when cards fall out and tumble out, whether they fall right side up or upside down. But if you lay down your cards and you flip it over and it's reversed, well, it's just upside down. The myth being that all reversed cards are the exact opposite or a negative version of the card. Not true. It can mean many, many, many things. So, like I said, probably have to do a whole video on reversals. But know that reversals don't mean the exact opposite. It can, but it's not a for sure thing. It can mean resistance too. There's so many things it could mean. So guys, when you get this, especially in the beginning, my recommendation, read it this way so that it's not so scary. A woman that I have read, I think, almost all her books, and when I was starting out, she was kind of my go-to person. Her name is Mary Greer. That's how she learned. And Mary Greer has been reading cards, I think, since the beginning of the 70s. She's, to me, almost like a grandmother to tarot because she's been reading for so long. Her and Sandra Pollock are two, I guess, foremothers of tarot for me. So don't be surprised if you don't hear me say, well, when I read Mary's book or Sandra Pollock said, they're both very predominant and amazing women in the field of tarot and are a fantastic source of knowledge. Now, I will state that Sandra Pollock has a very in-depth book, The 78 Degrees of Tarot. It's an in-depth look at the cards, and it can be very heavy. I tried to read it in the beginning of my tarot journey, and I found it too overwhelming. So it's something that you may want to put on your to-do list as you get further in and more comfortable with your cards. So anyhow, Mary Greer, that's how she learned, is that when she had the reversal, she flipped it to the upright position. Get used to it in the upright position. And then you can understand and work with the reversals as time goes on. Just know that reversals don't always mean a bad thing. It could just mean a resistance to, or even a moving away from. There's a lot of different meanings to the cards themselves, and when you add in that reversal, it adds even more. Again, reconfirming, don't try and memorize everything. We need to work on those skills, on those tools. So for right now, my recommendation, turn that bad boy upside right and read it as the upside right position. Shuffling. Okay, so shuffling, there is not one way to do it. However you feel comfortable. This may not be something that you feel comfortable doing. So you can flip them together and fan them together. That's a you thing. I have students that have arthritis and struggle with the shuffling. So I suggest a messy shuffle, which is just kind of smearing them all over your table, stacking them up, and using them that way. Or if it's really a challenge, you can cut the deck. So when you cut the deck, you have it laying flat on your table, and you just let gravity and the high vibrational beings help you cut the cards. Okay? There is no right or wrong way. And some of these cards can get really hard. Like that is my full hand span. You hear me complain that it can get really challenging. I also have a little deck, the Sovereign Oracle, which is like smaller than a business card size, which is incredibly challenging to shuffle. So shuffle how you feel that's going to make things work for you, okay? Take into account some of these oracle cards can get pretty big. And actually some of the tarot cards are now coming in this larger format. Additionally, if you do have arthritis or finger issues, you can get smaller cards that are the size of a playing deck. So use your research skills, your sleuth skills to find the decks that are going to work for you, okay? Sometimes those smaller decks, they're really handy to have. I've got a number of them just to do some of the bigger readings because I need the table space, right? What's going to work for you? That's the important piece. Silk. None of my cards are in silk. Let's be honest, when I started, I was a student in high school. I couldn't put silk to anything. It was the 90s. So no, you don't have to wrap things in silk. When you're looking at storing your cards, just take care of them. A lot of the boxes I don't suggest with the flip top. I know the box that this came in disintegrated on me. You can get boxes. This is the box that the Energy Oracle comes in. This is a good box because it's not going to disintegrate. We're not trying to flip open things. I do have the book that came with it just because I never threw this one away. It stays in the bottom because when I have the deck, it fits nicely in it, right? So if I take the book out, it falls down. So it's not so much fun. This is a nice box. You can get wooden boxes. They can get pretty expensive. So look at what your deck comes in, okay? Other ways, you can get little bags. Be mindful of the size of the bag versus the size of the card. So if you have your deck and you're putting it in, you can see how things can get they can fan out. And then when you look inside, you can see that you have cards that can get eared and they can get damaged. So be mindful of the bags, okay? I brought this one out as an example. I don't keep my cards in something like this. I like to wrap my cards up in a wrap because it's something that I created a long time ago for my cards so that I can easily wrap them up. And I will show you guys this on camera, but it's an easy, that's a bad wrap job because I'm doing it on my knee, but it's a nice tool to have where you have your cards all secured. They're protected from the elements, from dust, and you can keep your cards safe. If you like to keep boxes and want them in like a kind of integrity, or like I have the Thoth box. Well, I don't use this deck. The only time it comes out is when I teach, and then the deck goes right inside. So the hinges and the cardboard are holding up a bit. If you're using it every day, this will disintegrate quite quickly. So look at ways that you can protect your deck and still be able to use it without causing damage to the box. Like I said, a lot of my decks don't have boxes anymore, especially this deck, because of how old it is. So no, it doesn't need to be wrapped in silk. I know some people who do. That's a personal choice. Fantastic. Does it have to be? Absolutely not. You just want something that's going to protect your deck from the elements and make sure that it doesn't get eared. You don't want cards that are bent because it damages that card, and it also shows you what card it is. So if you have eared cards, you're going to understand quite quickly, oh, that means the death card. I really don't want that one. Let's get it out of there. So taking care of your deck without any marring, you need that protection. Whether it's silk, this is cotton with a fleecy inside. It's really up to you, okay? Just make sure that your deck is cared for and that it's gonna be preserved. These are investments. This one, well, we're not gonna say how many years old, but many. And it's still in fantastic condition. The more you take care of it now, the longer it'll last. So those are some of the myths. I'm sure that there's a lot more. I hit the kind of top dozen-ish of the myths. If there are other myths that you want me to bust or to clarify for you, just leave them below. I'll be able to clarify them quite quickly. Just know that the deck is for you and you need to start to get to know it, okay? And not being afraid of it. When we have that fear, that's what's going to come out in your cards. But when you have that excitement and that enthusiasm, your cards are going to feed off of it. Just as the high vibrational beings want to share information with you, that enthusiasm is contagious for us and for them. So tomorrow I'm going to talk more about taking care of your cards. I will show you what I mean by a wrap. Tomorrow I'll actually have everything on a table. I'm not really going to do the face-to-face thing. We need to get into the cards. We need to start to work hands-on. So I'm not sure when the next time I will be able to have my face on camera. So this might be a while till you actually see my face again. But you will see my hands, you'll hear my voice, and my cards. So again, thank you so much for joining me on day 2 of Tarot 101. And I will see you tomorrow, my friends.